Hello everyone, welcome back to Tinateach Python. Today's lesson is going to be about if and else, focusing on conditions and if statements as well as the logical conditions. We use logical conditions in a lot of things, but the most common thing that we use them for is if and else. Okay, you can see them in a lot of if and else statements. So let's move on to the next part. Let's review the logical conditions that we've seen previously. We have equals, okay? Remember, two equals because one equal is the assignment operator. It basically means, let's say if you have A equals to B, that is saying the value of A, give it to B, okay? Not equals is this one. Less than or equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to. I'm sure you're very familiar with it in everyday life, okay? It's not big math, it's very common. So, after logical conditions, let's take a look at the simple syntax of if and else. So, at the bare minimum, you have two values, okay? You have two values, x and y. If x is less than y, so this is your condition right here. If the condition is true, execute whatever is below here or whatever is in the condition. If x is less than y, so if 2 is less than 3, print 2 is less than 3. Very easy to understand, right? So let's move on to the next part. Now, for Python, indentation is very important. Python needs indentation to define scopes in code. Now, you'll be learning about scopes in future lessons, but what you need to know is that it needs indentation to sort of identify where a block of code begins and where it ends, how each block of codes are separated from each other. It relies on indentation for that. Now, in other languages, it uses curly brackets. So when you look at it, it becomes very obvious to you. And if you're not used to looking at Python, it may be a little bit confusing, but the indentation services the same way as curly brackets would, okay? And if I give you this code over here, minus the indentation, this would give you an error. And what kind of error? I'm going to show you in a demonstration, all right? Now, let's move on to elif, or else if, and just shorten. Elif is basically if the previous conditions were not true, then see if this condition is true, okay? Now, I have an example. Age equals to 21. If age is less than 21, print, you're not old enough to drink. Elif, age is equal to 21, so same value, print, you're old enough to drink, okay? Simple enough. Now, I want to introduce to you another familiar statement because it goes hand in hand with if. You have if and you have else, okay? Because they call it the if and else statement. Elif is usually less mentioned as a shorthand. So, else catches anything that is not true, okay? It catches anything that aren't caught by any conditions that you've given previously. So, the conditions of age is less than 21, not fulfilled, okay, because this age is 55. Now, age equals to 21, it's not fulfilled, right? Now, whatever is not fulfilled, whatever is not true, it jumps onto else. Print, you can drink anything. Now, if you don't have else, it's just not gonna do anything, basically. And let's move on. So I do hope that you managed to understand that. It's very simple. If, elif, and else. Now, alternatively, you can omit the elif part, right? If you have a very simple true and false, yes and no, if this is this, that is that sort of statement, right? If that's your purpose, then if and else suffice. You don't need to add in elif. Elif is usually for more like complicated, complex, a little bit higher demanding when it comes to different conditions, okay? And if age is less than 21, print you're not old enough to drink, else print you're old enough to drink, Okay, very simple like that. Now let's have a little bit of a demonstration. So let's go with order, and my order is t. Okay, you've seen an example of integers being used in if and else. Now let's try using string and Boolean values. Okay, so I'm gonna first go with something very simple. If t prints your order is t. Okay, now let me just zoom in so you can see it easier. If t print order is t, okay, if you simply just write it like this, if this evaluates to true, print your order is t. And I'm gonna run this. So as you can see, your order is t. Now what if I put in here coffee and it still prints out your order is tea? Okay, now why is this? It's coffee, right? And it's not tea. And coffee just simply is not in any sort of variable, so why does it work? Well, just basically anything that you put in here that is not false or 0, it'll print out your order is tea. Okay, this gets fulfilled very easily. Now let's test that, shall we? Let's go with false. If false, print your order is tea. And let's see if it actually does print. Now it doesn't, okay? Because it is false, it doesn't evaluate to true. But what if we just put in true? Your order is tea. As you can see here, very interesting, okay? Now let's try 0 and 1s. Because 0 should evaluate into false. It's considered duplicate values in a lot of data sets, See, it does not print, and if we put in 1, your order is t. Okay, now let's say let's go with false. No order, else print your order is t. Okay, let's see how this works. Now your order is t, because this false here, since it's already false, there's nothing to do. It jumps down here to else, and then it prints your order is t. Okay, now if we make this 1, and it says no order, because this evaluates to true. If this gets fulfilled, this gets printed, and it skips the else entirely. So it's a top-down sort of execution, okay? Now, let's move on to more complicated orders. If order is t, print 1t coming. It's down here, aleph, order equals to coffee, print, sorry, we ran out of coffee. And then let's go down here to else, print, what would you like to order? Okay, and let's run this. So 1t is coming, right? Order is t, so this evaluates to true. Now I'm going to switch this to coffee, and this should run. Sorry, we ran out of coffee, right? And what if it evaluates to like X or something? What would you like to order? Okay, so that's the nice thing that you have. Now you can get rid of aleph entirely, but if you put coffee in here, it will not tell you that coffee has ran out. Simply write, what would you like to order? So that's where the specific of aleph comes into, okay? Now that's it for today's lesson. I hope that you do learn something new and that you find if and else a little bit more interesting. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at more Python conditional statements. So you're looking at or, and, not, and those really does help simplify your code, makes your life easier. So I do hope that you'll tune into that. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Learn today, better tomorrow. Goodbye.